These are the impacts of the money bull. And I can go on and go. We have Astrotech in the Volta region, all in the Volta region. We have 55 projects, all in the Volta region, due to the money that Nana Akufo-Addo has raised and spent. So for honorable members to come and say that money has been borrowed for no work is quite rich. Mr. Speaker, my expectation of the president was an opportunity for him to address the state of the nation out there. But he told us in this house that he could not give us the true state of the nation address. And he even stated on page 6 of his address that, Mr. Speaker, I'm not able to, and I'll quote Mr. President, he said, nothing could prepare anyone for the reality of the depth of which our economy and government has sunk. He means that he wasn't prepared for the work given to him. This is his own work. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President has dashed the hope of investors.
That is your interpretation.
Mr. Speaker, the text, I'm quoting him. Mr. Speaker, I'm quoting him. And I'm quoting for the purpose of emphasis enhance that. He said, including Mr. President. So a president has covered. Mr. President has misrepresented data to create a gloomy picture. Mr. President has not given the true state of the nation of the year. He has given a state of lamentation. Mr. President has not given the true state of the nation. He has given a state of
conclude.
Mr. President has given a state of lame duck. Mr. President has given a state of confusion. Mr. Speaker, the State of the Nation address was what was presented by the Venerable Member of Parliament for Karga, Dr. Amin Anta, and the minority members of this Parliament for that matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
It's now the turn of Honorable James Agalga.
Sit down.
Listening to my colleagues from the other side debate, I am very shocked. Yesterday, one of my colleagues from the other side described President Mahama as Terminator number 1. And in his view, he's Terminator number 1 because his chief of staff has issued a directive to the effect that all public sector workers recruited or employed after the 7th of December be relieved of their duties. But, Mr. Speaker, clearly there was an agreement as part of the transitional arrangements. And I'm happy to note that the majority leader was part of the transitional team, that there would be no public sector recruitment after the 7th of December. It was agreed between from the colossal dismissal of public sector workers in 2017. I have in my hands a publication by Ghana Web dated Tuesday 23rd May 2017, headed as follows: Akufo-Addo sacks 13,000 public sector workers. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I read, in what has been described as reenactment of the dismissal of some 568 selected public servants by their four-bear government of Prime Minister Kofi Abrefa-Buzia, President Akufo-Addo has in the last 5 months sacked a staggering 13,000 public sector workers. The dismissed public servants, most of whom shown the exit in fulfillment of the MPP's government's policy to dispense with the services of government workers suspected of being sympathizers. Mr. Speaker, I have a personal experience to share. when I served as Deputy Minister of the Interior, 6 months to the elections, we secured financial clearance from the Ministry of Finance to recruit personnel through all the procedures, including putting out an advertisement. Applications were made, unlike what we saw recently when the argument made by the former Interior Minister was that he was recruiting from a non-existent backlog. We caused an advert to be made. Applications were put in, they were received, examinations written, and qualified candidates were selected for training. In 2017, Mr. Speaker, the Akufo-Addo government, after 4 months of training in the various training depots, actually dismissed recruits who had been trained in weapon handling. Most of the training modules they had gone through, including weapon handling, they were not afraid to dismiss them. Please, I was Deputy Minister. I challenge you to controvert the facts that I'm putting out there. So these are the people now crying wolf. We have been modest. After 7th December, after the elections, you knew you were leaving office. Why did you decide to recruit after you knew you had lost power? You had agreed that you will not take part in any recruitment processes after 7th December. And so what the Chief of Staff simply did was to apply the rule in the wake of the breach. So please, if you can describe President Mahama as Terminator number 1, I'm asking you, how should we describe President Akufo-Addo? Maybe Terminator half or Terminator quarter. So please refrain from these antics of yours. It is not in your best interest. The other day, Mr. Speaker, I listened to one of my colleagues, the honorable member for Menchia South, with bated breath. He created the impression that the Attorney General, Dominic Ayine, had abused his power to enter noli prosequi in respect of some of the cases. The General cannot enter noli prosequi without the prior authorization of the President, the appointing authority. Honorable Daku made those submissions in this House, and I took notes copiously. I want to draw my learned friend's attention to the fact that the power to enter noli prosequi is provided for under Section 54 of the Criminal and Other Offences Procedure Act 30. And in it, the Attorney General does not require the authorization of the President to enter noli prosequi. So what Honorable Dominic Ayine did in respect of some of the cases he has so far withdrawn or entered noli prosequi is in tandem with law. It is in tandem with Article 88 of the Constitution, which confers the prosecutorial powers of the...
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I think my learned colleague mentioned Menchia South and then added Daku. Please, on Menchia South is Honorable Nana Bafweji, John Daku is Swami. So please, let the hands that reflect that. And in any case,
very well.
He never said note. What you said regarding the noli prosequi. He never said.
Honorable John Daku, I agree on the first part, but the second part I disagree, because I have the cause sitting down there to draw the Deputy Whip Ahmed Jerry's attention to the fact that Attorney General doesn't need approval from the President to be able to enter a noli prosequi. And he is there and can bear me out, because I have listened to the honorable member.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague is a senior member of the House. Speaker, whilst you were addressing us, he was on his feet. He must respect the chair. You must respect the chair.
Honorable James Agalga, you have the floor.
And so, Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate the honorable member for Menchia South is not here. I know he's a lawyer of repute, But it's important that he goes back and refreshes his memory on his criminal procedure law so that next time he doesn't mislead this House in that manner. So far, the Attorney General has shown a lot of magnanimity, Mr. Speaker. In almost all the cases...
Honourable Member, conclude.
Oh. Terrorism. Mr. Speaker, as part of the diplomatic effort, the President has already reached out to neighboring countries such as Burkina Faso, which pulled out of the Accra initiative after President Akufo-Addo engaged in a major diplomatic gaffe by reporting to Anthony Blinken, the Foreign Secretary, or if you like, the equivalent of the Foreign Minister in the United States at the time, about Burkina Faso, a neighboring country, that they had brought in mercenaries to help them fight terrorism. President Mahama has taken it upon himself to fix the mess, that diplomatic mess that was created by Akufo-Addo in our quest to protect our country from violent extremism.
Honourable Member, your time is up. I proceed to give the floor to Samuel Abu Jinapo.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. When I was Speaker on the 27th of February 2025, the President came to this House to fulfill his constitutional obligation of giving the message of the state of the nation. But Mr. Speaker, I believe that this House almost unanimously have now agreed that that statement was indeed a message of lamentations. And I think all of us are agreeable on that. Mr. Speaker, but in spite of that, in spite of the impression the President wanted to give to the country, data and facts are sacrosanct, and the data and the facts that Mahama, which nobody can dispute indeed, is that we had a higher economic growth than our friends from the other side, that we had a higher per capita income than our friends. Agricultural sector, we grew better. Industrial sector, we grew better. We created more jobs than they created in their claim. That he had formed the leastest. Another government can have 20 ministers. Smaller government size than you who have 10 ministers. And I want to demonstrate that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's on record. The record is that the pegging or ranking of officials, the Chief of Staff is pegged at the rank below the Speaker of Parliament, but above a cabinet minister who doubles as a member of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, a senior presidential advisor is pegged at the level of a cabinet minister who doubles as a member of Parliament. So a senior presidential advisor, by all intents and purposes, their salaries, emolument, conditions of service is equivalent to not a member of Parliament. A presidential staffer, presidential aide, is pegged at the size of government and is bearing on the national exchequer. Mr. Speaker, don't just look at ministers and deputy ministers. Look at the government holistically. Mr. Speaker, I want to submit that if you look at this government holistically, there are ministers, deputy ministers, senior presidential. He has formed arguably one of the biggest or largest governments in the history of our country as it relates to the cost on the national exchequer. Mr. Speaker, why do I say this? Take, for example, the President has appointed Dr. Valerie Sawyer as senior presidential advisor in charge of government affairs. Her rank is a cabinet minister who doubles as the same rank as a cabinet minister who doubles as a member of Parliament. Mr. Speaker, he's appointed a presidential advisor on economy, appointed presidential advisor for 24-hour economy, presidential advisor in special aid to the president, presidential advisor on national anti-corruption program, presidential advisor on diaspora affairs. Mr. Speaker, he goes on to appoint presidential advisor, presidential staffer, and special aid to the vice president, presidential staffer for Black Star Experience, and then presidential staffer for diaspora affairs. Mr. Speaker, then he goes ahead to appoint 5 policy advisors to the vice president. Mr. Speaker, he tells the country that he's appointed a minister in charge of agribusiness, and yet he's appointed director at the presidency in charge of agriculture and agribusiness. My good friend Peter Buama Otukono. Mr. Speaker, he says he will not appoint deputy regional ministers, and he appoints 16 presidential staffers in charge of the 16 regions of our country. Mr. Speaker, I want to submit I want to submit that these presidential staffers in charge of the 16 regions of our country, in essence, as it relates to the cost on the national exchequer, are in fact, indeed, and in substance, deputy ministers of state. Mr. Speaker, he then appoints one presidential advisor on media, 4 directors of communication at the office of the president, 5 deputy directors of communication, 2 communication specialists, 5 technical communication assistants, 1 media aide. And I want to submit, Mr. Speaker, I've done the mathematics, that I want to submit, and I do this not from a partisan lens, but national exchequer. The president has appointed 100 ministers and deputy ministers. The president has established a Ministry of Youth Development. Mr. Speaker, I want to refer the House and my good friend, Honorable, I will tender all of this, Mr. Speaker. I will tender this. I will tender it. Mr. Speaker, but, Mr. Speaker, the Honorable James Agalga, my very good friend, has talked about how the MPP government terminated some appointments. Mr. Speaker, assuming without admitting that that even happened, shouldn't our governance move forward? Shouldn't we have good governance? And indeed, when we promise resetting, what does that mean? But Mr. Speaker, more importantly, may I refer the House, Mr. Speaker, may I refer the House to Article 191 of our national constitution, which states, and I quote, "A member of the public services shall not be dismissed or removed from office or reduced in rank or otherwise punished without just cause," end quote. Mr. Speaker, we are building a nation, and there are hundreds and thousands of people out there who have lost their jobs. I think our friends from the other side, the Honorable James Agaga, should join us to appeal to the president, just as he took an oath. Mr. Speaker, Article 191 is a provision of the Constitution of Ghana, and the president is enjoined to indeed defend and protect this provision of the Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the president, in the same schedule, swore an oath to some are MPP members, some are non-partisan, some don't even know what happens in politics, and yet a president who says he'll be father for all, like Joseph Witter, as the commissioner for Shrad, he appointed Joseph Nkrumah as chairman of NCCE. On 23rd December 2016, he appointed Daniel Domevilo as Auditor General. The Speaker, it is not Abu Jinapor,
member, conclude.
or it is not the minority. It's not the minority, Mr. Speaker, who is president promised to create jobs, and yet he's come and the talk on the street is that Mahama Bako terminations, Mr. Speaker, and that is why they have named him number 1. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we call on the president to rise up to the occasion, to jettison the promises, and Mr. Speaker, and honor his commitments of providing you for the Ghanaian people. What we heard on 27th was a message of lamentations and not a State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the attention.
Honourable members, it's now that
Before Doctor comes in, the concluding part of the honourable member's contribution on the seeming duplication of appointment at the presidency, I think it's a very serious matter. And we as a Parliament of Ghana, as part of our oversight, have a responsibility to draw the attention of the presidency. As I think that our
honourable member, I have listened to him carefully. He said, if they want him to tender, he would tender. So if nobody requested, why would he tender the document? It's different from you saying that he wants to tender. So, honourable member, I think you are out of order. Honourable Godfred Sedu Josao, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to
contribute to the motion before us today on thanking Mr. President on his message on the state of the nation. We are grateful to Mr. President for fulfilling his obligation under Article 67 and making himself available to this House and presenting that act, a message on the state of the country. Mr. Speaker, you would realize that Mr. President spent less time in talking about the record that he came to meet. Indeed, we are hoping that in coming days, the ministers of state of the various sectors will truly get us to understand what His Excellency the President inherited, so that at the end of his tenure, we'll be able to judge from where he took, what he has added on or subtracted. Then we'll be able to judge that sincerely Mr. President has moved this country forward or backward. I think that will be a fair request to make. Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, I have listened to some debates already, and I listened to my good brother who just concluded and sat down. There's one truth, that yes, he has 60 ministers. Indeed, he hasn't even got 60 ministers yet. And there's a government machinery, advisors, etc. that go on. And you know that the appointments made so far are not even up to 50. And today, you have a president that has not appointed up to 50. There's no way you can compare these sizes. And so being a House of Records, I think that we should be truthful to what the record really is. Mr. Speaker, in all these debates about the macroeconomic indicators, etc., there's one truth. Is it not true that the past government left this country with $721 billion Ghana cedis debt? Is it not true? That is true. Is it not true in the sinking fund? That's true. $50 million in the sinking fund? It is true. Is it not true that 1 billion Ghana cedis? That's true. Again, is it not true that when the Akufo-Addo government was leaving power, it left a cocoa sector debt of 5 billion Ghana cedis out of that? Is it not true that production of cocoa actually reduced from the expected 8 forward sales of cocoa that we made to the end metric tons?
It is not true that under His Excellency Akufo-Addo's administration, cocoa production was under 500 metric tons. It's not true. What the truth is, we did not hit the 1 million tons as expected, but it was never under 500 metric tons.
Honorable Minority Chief Whip, what was it?
So my point is,
what was it?
The fact is that are you listening? Will you listen? Are you listening? It was 530 metric tons. That was it. I'm spot on. So Doug, who I respect, should just, navigate properly and stay on course. That one, Doug, you got it wrong. I beg you.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity again. My leader, respected leader, is not right. He's not truthful. I've been in the Committee of Agri for the past 4 years, and so I'm endowed with the figures. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, the actual production is 435,000 metric tons. That's what we recorded last year. So I'm just being generous and diplomatic by saying under 500,000 metric tons. And we had a bill out of it of 330,000, in fact, 333,000 metric tons to pay, which we couldn't pay. And it has been rolled over for this year. Mr. Speaker, is it not true? The ESLA collections from the energy sector to pay? These are facts. And Mr. Speaker, is it not also true that in 2017, the exchange rate of cedi to dollar was $1 to 4.2 Ghana cedis, and that today, as at the time President Akufo-Addo was leaving office,
it was almost 16,000, $1 to 16 Ghana cedis. Be conservative if you even want to say 15. But these are the facts of the economic indices. And so let's not pretend that we can use macroeconomic jargons to bamboozle the people that we represent. This is the state of the economy. Let's admit to it and see how we can all speak to the script of resetting this country. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that excited me about His Excellency's message, which I think we must all avert ourselves to, again, is that let's be conscious of this fact, which is that in the last 8 years, this country actually spent, in 7 years actually spent 3 billion Ghana cedis, ring-fencing it to a flagship program in the Ministry of Agriculture called Planting for Food and Jobs. Mr. Speaker, we spent this money, yet year in, year out, inflation of this country has continued to go up, and a chunk of the reason for the country's inflation has always been food price inflation. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, having spent this quantum of money, when last year we had just 7 weeks of drought, Mr. Speaker, all our vulnerabilities was exposed. We were running helter-skelter. We didn't have food stocks. We didn't have any buffers. Our production was on its knees. The Ministry of Agriculture is not into our country. Mr. Speaker, this state of affair is not positive for our country. That is why I was excited listening to Mr. President outline a number of programs that he intends to roll out to revolutionize the agricultural sector. Mr. Speaker, the President announced the Agriculture for Economic Transformation agenda, which for me, what we have gone through as a country, I think that in that program, he has 2 major components that excite me. One of them is the Feed Ghana program. Mr. Speaker, under the Feed Ghana program, he is focusing also on grain development. This grain development is not just the production of the grain, but also production in high volumes, produce, in ways that will happen globally. You have just read in the news a few days ago that Burkina Faso has issued an ultimatum, in fact, a ban on grain export from Burkina Faso to neighboring countries.
Member, conclude.
Oh, really? Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this should tell you that there's a lot of challenge and there's a lot of introspection that we have to do as a country. And so, let's work hard in supporting the President's agenda on agricultural transformation for this country. Let's look at the Feed the Ghana program, Feed Industry program, and I'm particularly excited that the emphasis is on youth and agro-processing with an appropriate debate for the various sectors. I thank you very much for the opportunity, and I thank Mr. President for giving us that message of hope in his State of the Nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's now the turn of Honorable Asen Subachi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to the motion in thanking the President for delivering his message on the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, I personally thought the speech, the message was well delivered, especially with the aid of a teleprompter. When the President was making his presentation, I was telling my colleague that the President will look good on the screens because it will appear as if he's speaker. Honorable Adongo, I heard him on TV saying that the President spoke extempore. I'm sure my senior was not too familiar with the use of teleprompter. But, Mr. Speaker, much as the President's presentation was well delivered, the content was associated with lamentations, contradictions, mischief, misrepresentation of facts and issues, and a flawed narrative of urban roads. Poor urban content was associated with lamentation because the President lamented the state of road sector debt as if spending on infrastructure is a crime. Mr. Speaker, taking on debt is a critical part of managing an economy and even business. Those of us who run our small business, we encounter debt. You can ask the big industrialists in our country, the big businessmen in our country, the Kwame Despite, the Zoom Lions, the Ibrahim Mohammeds. You can say that they are all involved in some debt one way or the other. I submit to the Speaker that debt is not a bad thing. It depends on what you use the debt for. If you spend on infrastructure, you are helping with the development of the country. The Speaker, many advanced countries, all advanced countries, sustain various levels of infrastructure debt because they recognize that infrastructure is a necessary condition for development. Right from the outset, the Akufo-Addo administration made infrastructure provision, especially road infrastructure, highways, bridges, and interchanges, as a necessary condition for our development takeoff. And therefore, we invested a lot in infrastructure, road infrastructure, because we know the importance of road infrastructure in ensuring efficiency, promoting and ensuring productivity, production, increasing trade, and what have you. Mr. President, in the 1950s, Mr. Speaker, in the 1950s, one of the critical interventions the United States made in their effort to develop their country is to embark on interstate highway projects, connecting the various states in the U.S. with highways, dual carriage highways. And that transformed their economy. In fact, studies have shown that with road infrastructure, especially highways, when you invest $1, you make economic returns of $6. That is 600%. That tells you the importance of infrastructure. So when you build roads and you incur debt, it's not a bad thing. Over time, you recoup it, and it will help the development of the country. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to submit that the President framed a road for national economic development. Government comes, we incur some assume office. We experience substantial debt across multiple sectors, especially the road sector and the energy sector. That notwithstanding, the debt that we encountered in the road sector, the MPP administration embarked on an unprecedented expansion of the road network nationwide. In spite of the debt that we encountered, the energy debt that we encountered in the energy sector, the legacy debt that we encountered, we were able to ensure a sustained energy supply for 8 years, something that our predecessors couldn't do. So, Mr. Speaker, debt is not bad. It depends on how you use it, and we use it for infrastructure development, which is a necessary condition for development. Mr. Speaker, the President's speech also was characterized by contradictions, because I heard Mr. President laying a good basis, good foundation, why road infrastructure is very important for our country. And if you permit me, Mr. Speaker, I would like to quote from the State of the Nation address. It says, Mr. Speaker, our road network is the cornerstone of our nation's infrastructure, facilitating over 90% of the transportation of goods and services across the country. This vital network is critical in supporting agricultural growth by linking farmers to markets, lowering transportation costs, and ensuring quicker access to essential supplies and services. The resulting interconnected benefits foster a vibrant economy and enhance the livelihoods of countless Ghanaians. Mr. Speaker, the President was right. As a planner, I understand the importance of transport infrastructure, especially roads. But what I don't understand is that the president was making a case for road infrastructure, was lamenting, was bemoaning the spending we had made in road infrastructure. Is it not contradictory? Is it not paradoxical? It is a clear contradiction of the presentation by Mr. President. Mr. Speaker, the President's speech was also associated with mischief, distortion, and misrepresentation of facts. Why do I say so? It is an undeniable fact that the Akufo-Addo administration embarked on road works in Ghana between 2017 and June 13,624 kilometers. This is the road works that the MPP administration embarked on. Whilst at the same period of 8 years, the NPC embarked on 4,636. Mr. Speaker, the problem is when the president sought to twist the facts.
Honourable member, conclude.
The problem is when the president, the president sought to twist the facts in a desperate attempt to diminish our unparalleled record in achievement, to say that the 13,624 kilometers of roads were all brand new. Serious attempt to distort the truth. What we said was that out of that 13,624 kilometers, it involved asphalt overlays, construction, it involved graveling and regraveling.
Honourable member, your time is up. I will proceed to give the floor to Honourable Kwame Govins Agboja. Honourable members, take note. When the clerk stood up to me, it means your time is up. Then I would inform you to conclude. Thank you, Honourable Kwame Agboja.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to...
You were giving signal. You have 1 minute to conclude. If we can go by that, I'm sure it will be helpful, so that the speakers will be guided.
Honourable Kwame Agboja, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to thank the President for delivering on his constitutional today. And I will just limit myself to some of the comments made by my very good friend, the former Minister for Roads and Highways. Mr. Speaker, if I hear him well, he agrees with President Mahama as to why we should invest in roads. President Mahama's comment about the debt is such that if the over 700 billion debt we have, the component that was used on roads actually amounted to roads in our neighborhoods, nobody will comment. The difference here is that whilst your government in 2017 lamented about road sector debt or commitment of 17 billion, today, and then in fact, out of that, we can show you interchanges in Accra and elsewhere. Today, you are leaving us a commitment of over 105 billion and very little to show for it. That is the difference. Two, you complained about certificate and paid 3.5 billion when you saw a road project completed. Yet today, you are leaving us with a debt and paid of over 20 billion Ghana cedi. Where is the 20 billion cedis worth of roads?
Honourable Minister for Road, let me recognize Honourable former Minister for Roads and Highways.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm on my feet on point of information. Honorable Roads Minister is saying that we showed very little for the spending that we made in the road sector. Mr. Speaker, in terms of interchange alone, whilst in 8 years, it's not for you to decide. It's not for you to decide. Sit down for him to decide. Are you the speaker? Are you the speaker? You are not the speaker.
Honorable members, order.
The speaker.
Honorable member, does he need the information from you?
Yes, I think the nation and the House needs this information. You are not the speaker. You are not the speaker.
Honorable former Minister for Roads and Highways, candidate, resume your seat. Honorable Minister for Roads and Highways, you have the floor. Honorable former Minister, off your microphone.
Mr. Speaker, was approved in this House, financing everything secure. But Mr. Speaker, the point I'm making is that if the 20 billion we are saddled with today was equated to road projects in our communities, we wouldn't have had a situation where for the first day, 12 of our colleagues from the other side will be asking me questions as to when roads in their communities will be constructed. Mr. Speaker, 2, the president also talked, Mr. Speaker, let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, President Akufo-Addo, I was here, Mr. Speaker, I was in this chamber on the other side when President Akufo-Addo stood here and said, and then was doing like this, we built 10,800 kilometers of new roads. Mr. Speaker, I was courageous enough to, yes, he said it, 10,800 kilometers of new, the ministry, in fact, my current PRO of the ministry, who is a good friend of mine, issued a statement against me today. Later they rationalized and said that the 10,800 kilometers including pothole patching and other things. Today, my colleague from Walawale stood and then made the same statement that they built 13,000 kilometers of road. Now he's rationalizing it and say that it includes grading and re-graveling. Now, at least he did at the ministry. He knows that that level of presentation or misrepresentation by his government was needless, because we never report road conditions like that. You are going to spend you are going to spend 4 years in opposition. You
Honorable Asenso Boachi,
Mr. Speaker,
we listen to you in silence, so
Mr.
have
Speaker,
the courtesy to listen to others similarly.
Under my colleagues' stewardship, almost 100% of the project awarded were sole sourced. Oh, he said sole source. This government have even set up Ministry of Procurement to say them 5 billion is that they were just throwing contracts here and there without any proper planning. Today, Mr. Speaker, we are committed that we would improve the level by which we prepare projects for awards. President Mahama admits and acknowledges the importance of roads. You don't. You thought roads were about politics. That is why from July last year to December, check your record what you did at that ministry. You were just awarding projects. Even some of them don't even have contracts. Mr. Speaker, I am now saddened with people walking to me that I've been asked to go on this road and start a project. I want you to ratify it. And I said that I will not do that yet. Mr. Speaker, I tell them I will not do that yet. We have asked people to go to site and start work without any contract. Mr. Speaker, the sad, Mr. Speaker, I think my former respected colleague, my former respected minister, just left the ministry. What he did is on record there. He should not get too much agitated. More will come out. Your record at the ministry, in terms of how you manage the ministry, to the extent that, are you happy to leave me a burden of 105 billion Ghana cedi debt? And then you tell me, how is it possible? How is it possible? Listen. Honorable.
Honorable Asensu Buachi, your conduct is becoming disorderly. Please.
Mr. Speaker, I have enough time to bring the details of the challenges we have on the road sector. It is for no reason that even on Friday, I'll be here answering questions about roads. And my former colleague, Honorable Amokwata, to be honest, did very well. And I hope I will be able to emulate that in terms of commitment to answering questions. I hope you did as much as that when you took over. No, because you see, Mr. Speaker, when my colleague, Mr. Speaker, when my colleague was speaking, he said many things I disagreed with. I wasn't sitting in my chair ranting. Let me just tell him, I tell no lie about the road sector. And let me tell him that he served at the ministry before I went there. But I am more detailed and in-depth with that ministry more than him. Even after he said, I will never come here. Yes, I will never come here. I will never come here and make any false statement. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Minister for Roads, the aspect of you having been expunged from the records. You have the floor.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, kindly resume your seats. Honorable members, kindly resume your seats. Honorable Stephen Amwa, your conduct is disorderly. Your conduct is very disorderly. Honorable Minority Whip, I will recognize you if it is not in respect of what I asked that it be expunged. But if it is in respect of what I directed to be expunged from the record, then I will rule you out of order.
Speaker, I will not challenge your powers to rule me out of order. I mean, in this house, the interpretation of the rules is in your bosom. I'm only seeking to help the house and your good self for us to navigate in peace and in proper conduct. Speaker, we in leadership have an inherent responsibility to help you steer affairs and guide the house. So at this point, I think my colleague, the Honorable Minister, and the current minister should just take it cool. Some of the comments, and Speaker, you rightly said that it should be expunged. It's getting a bit personal. This is an intellectual exercise. Let's find a way of debating without going personal. Speaker, it's important we debate without going personal. So I just want to appeal to my colleague, the Honorable Minister. It should calm down, we should reduce the emotions and have a good debate. But let me commend you on your ruling that commentary should be expunged from the records. So, Honorable Minister, take it cool and make your point.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my colleague. I was quiet, though I didn't agree with everything. Mr. Speaker, in this house, when it comes to issues of law, I can easily defer to everybody who is a lawyer because I'm not a lawyer. So if a lawyer, in fact, the minority leader often says, when it's about law, listen to me. And we do. I've served on the committee. I'm speaking to fact. So my comment has nothing to do with him personal that he's been a minister, he didn't understand. That is not what I meant. But if you say it should be expanded, I agree. But let me repeat that the comments I make here about the road sector, and then because he used the word that the president was not factual, was not, I listened to all of it. President, listen, Mr. Speaker, you see him still speaking when I'm speaking. Exactly which point did President Mahama make, which is not factual? Is it not a fact that it is true that if you check the record today, a lot of road projects have been awarded under the MPP. Some of them have actually gotten no contract. Some contractors are on site working without a contract. That is not even included in the 105 billion. And two, Mr. Speaker, it is frightening to know that the government basically threw away the Public Procurement Act and almost 100% awarded almost all projects on sole sourcing, and that doesn't give value to the road projects we have. So, Mr. Speaker, we will do better. President Mahama is committed to completing all road projects that have been started as and when the fiscal space allows us to do so.
Honourable Minister, your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I will now give the floor to Honourable Isaac Opoku, Dr. Isaac Opoku. Second Deputy Speaker should take the chair. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute on the motion on the floor. Speaker, I want us to settle the debate on what His Excellency presented to this House, whether it was the State of the Nation address, SONA, or projections of the nation address, PONA, or State of Lamentation address, SOLA. So at the end of the debate, Speaker, I want us to settle on that issue, whether it is SONA or PONA or SOLA. Mr. Speaker, His Excellency made a very profound statement. Speaker, he said students are being well fed today. But the question I ask Mr. President is to feed the students. When did he plant and when did he harvest? Is it reincarnation of Okomfanoche, who could plant and harvest the same day? Mr. Speaker, indeed, students are well fed today because the planting for food and jobs was overwhelmingly successful. Speaker, students are well fed today because now we have more officers educating our farmers in the field. Mr. Speaker, in 2016, the extension officer to farmer ratio was 1 to 1,500. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, the ratio has been reduced to 1 extension officer to 700 because the drudgery in farming has been drastically reduced. Speaker, in 2024, 150 power tillers, 96 maize shellers, 23 unit combined harvesters, 96 rice millers were distributed to farmers to reduce the drudgery in farming. Mr. Speaker, the farmers, the students are well fed today because in 2024, quality planting materials were distributed to farmers. Rice, sorghum, soya, tomato, pepper, onion, yam sets, plantain suckers, and cassava bundles were distributed to farmers. Mr. Speaker, the students are well fed today because today we have improved grain storage facility. 69 warehouses have been completed and they are littered around the country. Mr. Speaker, today students are well fed because we have 12 coastal fish landing sites completed. We have one at Azim, one at Diskov, one at Mori, one at Manford, one at Winneba, one at Senyabreku, one at Gomwafete, one at Otiam, one at Mfansiman, one at Teshi, one at Osu, and one at Keta. Mr. Speaker, today students are well fed because 2 fishing harbors have been completed, one at Elmina and one at Jamestown. Speaker, now let me turn my attention to cocoa. My good friend, Honorable Gasau, he said cocoa production at the end of the 2023-2024 season was 923. The issues presented by His Excellency, the President, so nothing was hidden. Cocoa Board indicated that in 2020-2021, Cocoa Board achieved historic cocoa production. 2020-2021, Cocoa Board achieved 1,045,385 metric tons. The Speaker, that is the highest production ever in this country. It has never happened in the annals of this country. Mr. Speaker, as we speak today, the producer price of cocoa is 49,600 per ton, as against 6,800 per ton in 2016. Mr. Speaker, today a farmer sells a bag of cocoa at 3,100 and is able to buy 31 bags of cement today. Cocoa Board and their farmers are receiving 400 they sell on the international market. This is what they call the living income differential. And yet the President didn't find this necessary. Is that today, Cocoa Board is not looking for loan from the international market to the purchase of cocoa. Cocoa Board has developed what we call self-financing model to purchase cocoa. So today,
Honorable Member for Offenso South, begin to decide.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. had given the breakdown of the debts, we would have known that the loan included a 10-year loan inherited from the previous administration. Mr. Speaker, the 32.5 billion included agrochemicals and fertilizers Cocoa Board bought for Cocoa Board. And indeed, they have started distributing the agrochemicals and fertilizers for this season. Mr. Speaker, Cocoa Board borrowed money from the AFDB to finance the rehabilitation and the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease control. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, between 2014 and 2016, Cocoa Board abandoned the control of swollen shoot and left that control in the hands of the ordinary farmer. Speaker, now let me talk a little bit about Speaker, in conclusion, farmers are asking His Excellency the President, when will farmers begin to receive the 70% of the producer price of the world market that they promised?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Opoku. Honorable Member, it's now the turn of Honorable Asarobin.
10 minutes, you don't check out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I think that yeah, the mic doesn't want me to speak. I think don't worry, don't worry. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And his constitutional mandates. I've heard a lot of my colleagues say that the president, the lamentation of the previous organizing a press conference to call on the president to sack their finance minister because of the state of the nation that they were in and what they envisaged. It was not just the members of parliament who were lamenting in the history of the Fourth Republic. And so the president could only join in what everybody was, the 24-hour economy and Nkokon Kitenkete. Mr. Speaker, I've heard a lot of my colleagues say that how are we going of the SONA? Can here please pay attention? It was on that day that the president told us that 55,000 homes were going to benefit from Nkokon Kitenkete. Mr. Speaker, Ghana imports about $300 million of poultry every year. Our national demand is about 400,000 metric tons every year. In fact, we produce only about 57,000 tons a year. Importation is about 270,000 metric tons a year. And the president, in his wisdom, has noticed that if 100 districts put together 500 beds for 5,000 homes, we will be making about 55,000, a total of about 27,000 beds per cycle. And when I say cycle, I mean when you are raising broilers from day old, that's what we call DOCs, to 7 weeks 7, you complete one cycle. And so the president came and told us that in a cycle, Mr. Speaker, this will help reduce dependency on importation. It will strengthen our food security. It will create opportunities. It will create jobs. And it will help the youth enter in. How will this work? And how are we going to make money from Nkokon Kitenkete? How will this work, and how are we going to make money from Nkokon Kitenkete? It costs about 71 cedis to raise a bird from day 1 to 3 kilos. To raise a bird to 3 kilos, you need to give it about 4.5 kilos of feed. Every 1 kilo of feed it eats again, 1.5 kilo of feed it eats against about 1 kilo weight. And therefore, before it gets to 3 kilos, you have to feed it with about 4.5 kilos of feed. This means that we have to produce a lot of maize to feed these birds, because in every kilo of feed that you feed a bird, about 60% is made up of maize, which is up to it. And so, our poultry farmers, our maize farmers, this is good news that the president has given to us. According to the president, we are going to grow a lot of maize to feed a lot of birds. Mr. Speaker, apart from maize that we are going to grow to feed birds, we are also going to make a lot of manure. Ghana imports so much fertilizer. In 2023 alone, we imported over $200 million worth of fertilizer. And therefore, under the Nkokon Ketenkete program, we are going to get a lot of manure. In fact, every bed, and these ones are fact, every bed that you raise at 3 kilos produces about between 2 to 4 kilos of droppings in a lifetime. And this is what we call fresh manure. And when I say fresh manure, I'm talking about 70% water and 75% water, 25% dry manure. And so, under this program, in Nkokon Ketenkete, we are going to be able to produce manure here in Ghana, locally. If you, Mr. Speaker, I can go on and give you how much residue you make per acre when you grow maize and mix it with the chicken intestines and all to give you a certain tonnage of fertilizer every year. And this is what the president is telling us that we are going to do. Apart from that, the president is looking at putting money directly in the pockets of every household through this program. When you raise a bed, we sell it at what is called carcass weight. Carcass weight is 2.5 kilos per broiler. The weight is 3 kilos, but when you remove the feathers and the intestine and all of that, it will be left with what we call carcass weight. At a carcass weight of about 3 kilos, you can sell it for 90 Ghana cedis. When you subtract the 71 cedis needed to raise the beds every year, every household under this program will be making about 9,000 people who voted this government to power. To be able to feed, if every household employs 2 people to take care of 500 beds per cycle, what it means is that directly we are employing 110,000 people in 100. This does not include and many others. In fact, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Member, just wind up.
Mr. Speaker, chicken feet, Akoko 9, chicken feet is a huge delicacy imported over fucking goes waste. And this is what was known as the cottage industry. Giving them feed, letting them raise the bed and buy them back from the farmers for slaughter. Mr. Speaker, we will need feed mills, we will need processing plants, we will need fertilizer processing plants, and all of these will go a long way to employ a lot of young people.
Thank you.
Akoko Nketenkete, the 24-hour national broiler project is a brilliant idea by His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Let him now turn to
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity given to me to contribute to thank the President for delivering his State of the Nation address to the people of Ghana through this House, pursuant to Article 67 of the Constitution 1992. Mr. Speaker, since 1993, every president has used the opportunity to present the State of the Nation address to, as it were, give us specific actions and solutions to some problems they have seen. Indeed, the former President J. John Rawlings, in his State of the Nation address, Mr. Speaker, as that faithfully listed some of the major laws which, in his view, we needed to put the country on the right footing. So in his State of the Nation address, we saw the First Act being established in Mr. Rawlings' State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, 2001, the President identified two major things. He spoke about the Job 600 and then spoke about the fact that we as a country needed to move the presidency from the castle. By the time he finished, we had the Jubilee House, and then the Job 600 is done. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, in his State of the Nation address, delivered in 2017, Mr. Speaker, also mentioned major flagship programs. One of them being the free SHS policy. He used the free SHS and its impact. The President of the Republic now came to this house to address us. What did we see? What we heard from His Excellency the President was just lamentations after lamentations after lamentations. He did not proffer any solution to any of the problems, Mr. Speaker, that he actually enumerated. Mr. Speaker, one of the Joy FM's latest report is here by Erastus Asaridonko. Mr. Speaker, he says the article reads, NDC officials resist seizure of Galamsey equipment as government team faces hostile, but he did not proffer any solution. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the State of the Nation address, what did Mr. President say about the Galamsey? Mr. Speaker, with the leave of the chair, I will quote. He said, to combat this urgent crisis, we are implementing a proactive approach that includes robust and impartial law enforcement, meaningful stakeholder engagement, and creation of alternative livelihood programs. So I'm asking myself, what does this mean? What does this mean? This man is every day engaging in stakeholder engagement without solution. As a country, we are looking for solution. We are not looking for stakeholder engagement. What the President is doing, he's telling us that he's engaging in stakeholder engagement. He is saying that he's going to engage in impartial law enforcement. Look at this, impartial law enforcement. Joy FM is reporting that NDC officials are right now in the bush. They are in the forest reserves. Why is the President not dealing with them? He talks about impartial implementation of law. Why is he not going after them? Why is he not going after them? The President came here to put words together without meaning any of them. Galamsey is destroying this country, and Mr. President, when he came here, he had the opportunity to proffer solution as to how this to be done. He did not. Mr. Speaker, people who are perceived to be NDC people, they are right now in the bush. They are in the forest reserves. Mr. Speaker, when the President rises mining activities into small, medium, and large scale
Honorable John Dako, hold on. Honorable Mutala, please, you are a minister. Don't give me the opportunity, please. Yes, Honorable Leader.
The Speaker, Honorable Member made reference to NDC members being in the bush, purportedly engaging Galamsey
activities. I think that you need to be specific if there's an incident and it's an isolated incident involving one person or two persons at a particular location. It is no basis for you to stand in this chamber and say that NDC people, I think that is not appropriate. And so he should withdraw that and continue with his debate. He was doing well until he got to that point. So he should continue doing well by just withdrawing that.
Honorable members, yesterday I understand that the rules you set up for the debate apply today. So I gave the opportunity to leader, but please let's allow ourselves to get the debate flow so that we can also finish on time and do other things.
I do agree with you. That is the spirit in which the debate is. You know, I ordinarily would not do this, but when you say the NDC people, you are maligning an entire group, and it won't be fair for us to let that pass.
Yes, Honorable
Speaker, I can assure our leader that he shouldn't be afraid. He shouldn't be afraid. We are not out to malign the entire group. But the Honorable John Darko is a man of integrity. And as much as possible, we also agree that the debate should flow and we should reduce the interventions.
So, honorable member, I'm told you are going to provide better particulars, but please, let's be guided with all these things. If you know what we are saying is going to also attract unnecessary intervention.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much. And Leader of the House, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I actually quoted from Joy FM report. We were here when one of my colleagues quoted from Ghana Web, and so I believe that is allowed. My Lord, the government, as government team faces hostile reaction, NDC officials, Mr. Speaker, I would like to tender it, and I can read the report to the House. And the report shows clearly that the NDC officials are the people engaging in this galamsey. I'm willing to tender this in as evidence. Mr. Speaker, again, we know the Ghana Web report, our Wind Traditional Council accuses NDC of ravaging Ghana Wind Forest with Ghana.
Yes.
We just cautioned him to be careful about generalizing and then misrepresenting an entire group. Now you see, a journalist writes about somebody resisting the seizure of an equipment. There's a difference between resisting seizure of an equipment and actually engaging in mining. What is galamsey equipment? What is galamsey equipment? What is galamsey equipment? What is galamsey equipment? I'm saying that resisting the seizure of the equipment, even if it's galamsey equipment, resisting the seizure of the equipment is not the same thing as engaging yourself in mining or illegal mining. So I just want you to be factual. What are the facts? Stick to the facts. Once engage in galamsey activities.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Speaker, you earlier advised our colleague, Honorable Mutala. He's a very good friend. I heard him make a very damning comment. I wouldn't want to repeat what he said. Speaker, he should know that we are all guided by your directives. Speaker, you had already advised him. He should be guided.
Personally, I didn't hear anything.
And so, Mr. Speaker, he needs to tell me what I have said. I think that if he's feeling very bored and he wants to talk, repeat it. I challenge you to repeat it, else you are lying, and I put it to you. I challenge you to repeat what you think I said,
Honorable
else you are
Murtala.
lying.
Honorable Murtala, please.
I challenge you to repeat it.
Honorable Murtala, please. Put off your mind. Yes, Honorable John Darko, let's conclude.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the JFM report clearly says that a government, if I may read, Mr. Speaker, with your permission, a government advisory team on fact-finding mission to assess the impact of illegal mining faced stiff resistance in parts of the western and central region as they immobilized and seized equipment. The operation aimed at curbing environmental destruction sparked angry reactions from illegal miners and some officials of the governing NDC party. That is what happened. This is the FM report. Mr. Speaker, I also quote a report. Mr. Speaker, I also quote a report from Ghana Web, where the report clearly says that our Wind Traditional Council, the president didn't find anywhere in his speech to condemn that. Mr. Speaker, the president also said, as part of his fight against Galamsey, that he will establish framework that categorizes mining activities into small, medium, and large-scale operations. I was shocked to read that from the president. Because, Mr. Speaker, as we have it right now, the mining activities, they are divided into two, small-scale and large-scale. So when the president says he's now going to categorize them into small-scale, medium-scale, and large-scale, what is he talking about? The Mining Act is very clear. So it's the president telling us that by creating a medium-scale mining, that is how he's going to fight.
Honorable John Darko, please wind up, please.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, they've been taking my time. Mr. Speaker, I haven't done anything.
Honorable member.
I won't be fair because Lisa has all interrupted me.
Honorable members, I don't have time here. It's the clerk at table who are managing the time. He just tell me you have 1 minute, so that's why I'm asking you to wind up. Please.
Mr. Speaker,
they have deducted all the interjections. They just told me you have 1 minute. Please, yes.
On our forest cover laws, the president said he will launch trees with no timeline. How are we going to judge the president? He don't have any way to measure the president. Mr. President, on climate change, Mr. Speaker, on climate change, the president said that he has successfully authorized 3 projects that are poised to reduce 5.2 million tons of carbon emissions. Mr. President, the president didn't tell us which projects are these.
Thank you, John.
Mr. Speaker.
John, thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, I am not even.
John, thank you. Thank you, John. Let's now listen to Honorable Chumesi Ampofu. Yes, Honorable, you have the floor. 10 minutes. It starts now.
Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to come to home sweet home. Therefore, it's important for every government to put proper policies and measures in place to stabilize its economy, to enable its people or citizens to feel at home. Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of youth or a lot of people who want to travel outside. But if we are able to stabilize the economy, put proper measures in place, make more policies, and then have more jobs in the country, our citizens will not go outside. They would like to be at home and then working and feel free. Mr. Speaker, during MPP era, the economy was so bad. Mr. Speaker, if you are a driver and then you sit in the car and then you don't check your side mirrors, your rear mirror, your wiper, and then you just move the car, Mr. Speaker, likely you are going to hit somebody or you are going to go into ditch. That's what President Nana Akufo-Addo did to this country. They spoiled the economy so bad that most of the investors leave the country. They left Ghana and went to different countries because of the bad economy, bad inflation. Mr. Speaker, during that era, dollar to cedi is 17 Ghana cedis. Now it has come to dollar to 15. Mr. Speaker, the T-bill or the Treasury bill at that time was about 29%. Now it's administration. Mr. Speaker, therefore we need to applaud President Mahama. President Mahama has promised that he's going to make sure he will bring more employment. Mr. Speaker, unemployment youth poses a threat to this nation. Therefore, it's important for we leaders of this country make good policies and then make sure we put more measures for us to bring more jobs to our youth. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama has promised to make agri very attractive in this country for our youth to benefit. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama has promised that he's going to make accessible to mechanization, which will help because without mechanization, we can't do more. During President Nana Akufo-Addo's time, we heard of one village, one dime. At the end of the day, we didn't see any dime anywhere, Mr. Speaker. So this is a good promise. Mr. Speaker, President Mahama has also promised that he's going to make sure there's going to be quality seeds to be supplied to the youth, supply fertilizers. Mr. Speaker, we're all here when fertilizers were going outside the country at the back of camels in this country. Mr. Speaker, I think this must stop. We are doing our own, we are harming ourselves. Mr. Speaker, he's also going to support financial, he's going to give financial support to the farmers to enable farming attractive for the youth to come on board. Ghana is a great country. Therefore, if we're able to put more finance or give us support there, it will help us and then grow the economy. The Speaker is also going to make sure he provides extension officers. The Speaker is important because most farmers, they need these extension officers to guide them, to support them, to educate them so that they can come out with proper farming to feed this country without hazard. The Speaker is also going to make sure we have farm centers. Mr. Speaker, in this country, there are a lot of youth who want to farm, but sometimes they find it difficult to get this land. Some go ahead or go along to rent a land before they can farm. Therefore, if every district, as President Mahama promised, able to get these farm centers to help our youth, Mr. Speaker, I think it will go a long way to bring down this unemployment issue. Mr. Speaker, let me also tackle on artisans issue. Mr. President, or His Excellency President Mahama has also promised that he's going to support the artisans. Mr. Speaker, in this country, we know that these artisans help a lot. They do a lot in this country to grow the economy. Mr. Speaker, this artisan that we are talking about, when they have their skills or when they are very good at work, when they finish their work, they do more. They don't rely on government to get jobs. They are themselves self-employed. They are dependent. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, it's important for government or President Mahama to support these artisans. Mr. Speaker, These artisans, there are many. We have masons, we have tilers, we have those who do POP, we have carpenters, steel benders, electricians, and all that. So when they give financial support, when they get this financial support, and Mr. Mahama, President Mahama has also promised that he's going to give them free technical and vocational training. He's going to also provide them with financial support. And this will go a long way to help them to get their jobs. And then the economy will move on. Mr. Speaker, I'm also glad to hear from the President Mahama in the State of the Nation address that is going to address teacher Dabra's issue. Mr. Speaker, the accommodation of teachers at various places is very challenging. If you come to my constituency, Senior West, there are a lot of villages or rural areas. Mr. Speaker, when you post teachers there or in winding up, these teachers find it difficult to get accommodation. It's a very challenging area, and the same will be quality for everybody, for each and everyone. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for these few words.
Thank you very much. Yes, let me listen to the leader of the House before we continue.
Mr. Speaker, I want to crave your indulgence to grant leave for us to vary the order of business so that the first Deputy Speaker can lay the report itemized number 1 on the order paper addendum that has just been distributed.
Very well. Minority leadership.
Speaker, the leader is Speaker business and to lay a paper. No problem.
Honorable members, leave granted. First Deputy Speaker, you have the floor.
13th report of the Appointment Committee on his 13th report of the Appointment Committee on His Excellency, the President's nomination for appointment as Deputy Ministers.
Honorable members, the report has been duly laid. They are to be distributed to honorable members. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, with the same leave, may I move the... No, not 13, 12.
Should we hold on with the debate? Honorable members, Chairman of the committee, let me take one, then we take your report.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker, with respect, the leader made an appeal to lay, and I thought we'll limit ourselves to the laying. And then
the motion duly. So let's limit ourselves to the laying.
The motion duly. So let's limit ourselves to the laying for now.
We finish with the laying. We are left with Kwabena Ochedako and Stephen Amoa.
Speaker, with respect to you, it's not entirely true. At the conclave, we agreed. That was why we reduced the time allocated earlier from 50 minutes to 10 minutes. So the agreement at conclave was that we'll get 9 on each side to speak. Honorable, my colleague will bear me out. That was the agreement. So it cannot be 2. There are more than 2. 9, it was 9. Well, we can add on. We have 9 there, but we can add on. So we still have more to do.
So, leadership, are we to continue the debate?
Right, Honorable Speaker, I believe today the debate will continue and it may not end today. It will take us to Friday. So that is why I was with a view that if you could take the committee's report, then the rest of the period is for the debate, so that as many as we are able to take, then we take that particular number. We may even go beyond the 10 if the time will allow us.
So, minority chief.
So that just to remind my leader that his backyard doesn't look too good. So he shouldn't look too confident because his backyard is not too strong.
So let me now invite Honorable Kwabena Ochedako. So, Chairman of the Appointment Committee, please, I'll give you time. Let me take 2, then I'll come to you. Yes, Honorable Kwabena Ochedako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice to the state of the nation. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that the report or the President's speech is not numbered, but it says that I, John Dramani Mahama, will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity. Mr. Speaker, as far as the record shows, when it comes to President John Dramani Mahama, we know that it was 3.4. We did 6.4. Mr. Speaker, when you talk about gross public debt to GDP, he did 73%, whilst we did 72%. That shows the efficiency of the loans we have borrowed in generating 5.9%, whilst 8%. So clearly, the record of President Mahama shows that he just can't do this job. It is for this same reason that he tries to hide behind the sinking fund phenomenon. Mr. Speaker, the act supporting the sinking fund is not compulsory. If you take the Financial Management Act 2016 Act 921, it says in section 37(1) to create and use a sinking fund. And therefore, the use of the accounts mean to provide for the payment of buffers during the Nanado's regime was in the right order. Mr. Speaker, if you also take the President's speech on energy, he had made it categorically clear that there was a contradictory rather and enclave energy, and therefore you cannot use that as a pilot to do more of such operations in the districts and in the communities. Mr. Speaker, one area that interested me was in the area about the petroleum sector, linking it to the city of Sekondi Takoradi and the Western region. And Mr. Speaker, this is what the President said, and I quote, "Ghana's petroleum sector has witnessed a precipitous decline, with crude oil production shrinking by more than 32%, and excessive political interference culminating in most major oil companies exiting and stalling upstream activities." This is ever since the world started shifting towards the energy transition. The world has not been putting up the capital to be alluding to excessive political interference in this area. It's just not correct and it's wrong. Mr. Speaker, the decline in upstream activities, the President continues, is obvious to any person familiar with the twin city of Sekondi Takoradi. Just under a decade ago, the twin city were the bustling epicenter of fabrication, logistics, service activities associated with the upstream oil and gas sector. Unfortunately, my recent visit reveals major shutdown facilities and many businesses that have packed and left. Mr. President knows exactly that even the OECD countries were not putting up the money to finance these companies. Mr. Speaker, hundreds of workers have been laid off and left unemployed. I wish to assure the people into the area Mr. Speaker, as for Mr. President John Mahama, we know him very well. He was the one that promised that 10% of the materialized. So clearly, Mr. Speaker, we know for a fact that President John Mahama would never deliver on this promise. Mr. Speaker, the whole NDC infrastructure, under them, Ghana lost the Black Star Line. That created a lot of unemployment in the Western region. When it gets to the issue of state capture in Western region, the GNTC that was operating in those days was captured by cronies and friends of the NDC. When you talk about the GMPC bakery at the Takrady Hebo, it was also taken over by cronies and friends of the NDC. If you talk about Bonsa ties, it collapsed under the NDC. Mr. Speaker, WVLC, Western Veneer and Lumber Company used to have more than 4,000 workers. Mr. Speaker, that is the reason why our economy has been having problems in the Sekenita area. Mr. Speaker, WAMCO, West Africa Mills, also suffered the same fate under President John Mahama. It collapsed until Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came to the scene and resuscitated it, and now it is working. So, Mr. Speaker, when you talk about things that the President and the NPP did for the people of Western region to sustain life and keep it afloat, there are so many of them. Mr. Speaker, you can talk about the Elibu Government Hospital that has been completed, the Mpoho Government Hospital, the New Takrady, the Accident and Trauma Center at Apmenim, Bukro Government Hospital, Mpoho Regional Hospital, and our Agenda 111 Bukro was completed. Yes, ours has been completed and commissioned. It has been completed and commissioned. And we have already, for the past 2 months, we've been giving instructions not to. You cannot blame anybody for the hospital not being opened. So, Mr. Speaker, we know what we are doing in the Western region. Mr. Speaker, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo gave Western region the largest naval base in this country at its level. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Honorable member, please.
Mr. Speaker, this state of the nation is uninspiring, especially when it comes to jobs for the youth. Mr. Speaker, it promises greenhouse agricultural jobs of 30,000, and Kukwam Ketenkete of 55,000, and then implementable businesses for young people of 2,000. Mr. Speaker, when you put up this figure, out of a population of 2 million unemployed youth, clearly these numbers just are uninspiring, and it's not good and very disappointing for the young people of this country. So they should up their game so that the young people of this country and stop the blame.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Let's now listen to Honorable Haji Aladdin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity for me to add my voice to the message on the state of the nation given by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. We thank God, thank Almighty Allah for giving us the opportunity for power to change and for us change hands and for us to be seated here today comfortably and peacefully and debating. I wish to first of all thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama for giving us the opportunity of having a woman as the Vice President. Women in Ghana and the whole world cannot thank him so much. It's a dream come true for most of us. We couldn't have thought of it coming sooner than this. We hope and pray that many others would follow suit, not only in Ghana, but other countries. Mr. Speaker, In the presentation of the State of the Nation, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama stated that the country was at slippery slopes. In fact, it was actually very, very slopey and slippery. And we thank God
I like that.
that Ghanaians decided to ensure that they will not let Ghana go down the drain. We are seated and arguing and talking about the issue that Ghana was on good footing before the just passed administration left office. When have we so soon forgotten? When plantain was carried and brought to the ministries for sale, when have we so soon forgotten?
Ask them.
I simply asked myself at that time. I didn't have the power to say anything or to do anything except to talk. But I just wondered, even those in Accra, and for that matter, even around just the outskirts of Accra, let's take even Kaswa, did we expect them to come to the ministry to come and buy plantain because it was cheaper there, or because the minister had brought it there? It happened. It happened because of food shortage. People couldn't get food on the table, sometimes not even for one meal, not to talk of 2 or 3. Today we are being told that all was rosy before the MPP left government. We will not forget so soon. We wouldn't forget. Don't let us also forget, when we talk about electrification, the simple thing I always remember, and unfortunately my brother, whom I will be referring to, is not here. We say Dumso, and that day people wanted to use it to say it was not His Excellency John Dramani Mahama that brought Dumso to an end. Have we so soon forgotten about the lies-offs that came to the extent that our brother, when he was compelled to come out and say something to the nation, said that this was not called Dumso, but it was called what? Dumsiesie. Today we are saying that we never had issues. Look, we are for the people, all of us, whether you are NDC or MPP. We are for the people, and we must talk it as it is. So we shouldn't forget about these things. We were in this country, we were in this chamber. When, for God's sake, the army was able to come into parliament and to come into this chamber, as if Ghana was at war with another country. We legislators who are here, legislators, we have no problem except pen, paper. And yet, when we took power, 7th January, and we gathered here, nobody saw even an army officer, one single army officer around the premises of parliament. Not to talk of them coming inside our chamber. Up until now, we haven't heard anything about that incident.
Peaceful.
Very, very, very peaceful. All went well. Look at the election of the speaker and the 2 deputies. That is the best way to go. We got the numbers because Ghanaians trust and believe that we can deliver, and inshallah we shall deliver. And again, it occurred in this chamber during the voting of the speaker, snatching of ballot papers and chewing them, which we normally cry against. We say, no, we don't want this to happen, we don't want that to happen. It happened here. We, the same people, the leaders, were here, and it happened. I wouldn't want to mention the person's name because he is not here, but most of us here were around. What do we say about that? I won't give you the opportunity, because when I give you that opportunity, you will let me laugh and then just sit down. No, I'm going to do it, and then I will talk it as it is. Mr. Speaker, school feeding, it basically, they will not even come out, they dare not, the headmasters dare not come out to it. Because if they did, they will be transferred. Today, everyone in Ghana has the peace of mind to talk and to say it as it is. Our school children immediately started, the students immediately started, there was food carried in no time. To them, food stuff was carried to those schools. And they had food on their tables. They ate food, beautiful, very nice, very nutritious, with eggs. What are we looking for in governance more than what is happening currently? His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is out here to work and to ensure that the work is being done. And he has already started it. Immediately, the president of the US, Donald Trump, came out with the issue of US aid not coming again. He gave an instruction outright. He didn't wait. He instructed the Minister for Finance to make sure that he makes room. And before we could say Jack, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ablakwa, was able to give us the numbers there and told us he had already done the groundwork for them to be catered for so that they can come back home safely. This is how we want it.
Honorable Ladi, begin to descend. And say, begin to descend for landing.
I have 10 minutes, Mr. Speaker. So I have not.
You are left with 1 minute. That's why I'm asking
Mr.
you.
Speaker, while we were at that, we had cholera outbreak. We saw all of us, including the Minister of Health, run round, send health personnel, ensure there is medication at every place that was affected. And thanks to the Almighty Allah, I believe that that problem is more or less being solved. Sure. Then we had the issue of meningitis. And because the president were affected, treatment should be given free. Education should be given properly so that people will be able to take care of themselves. This is what we are looking for.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We will take the last round, then take the appointment report, then probably come back. So we will listen to Honorable Stephen Amoah. Honorable Dr. Stephen Amoah.
I thank you for this. I think offered Ghanaians records and data and the appropriate interpretations and explanations with integrity.
Interpretation in what?
Of economic figures.
You said another word.
And explanations.
Okay.
With integrity. Mr. Speaker, I think this issue about recycling incidents, pieces of information, just because one party wants to be in power, another party wants to come to power, in my opinion, should be a thing of the past. We can't continue treating Ghana this way. Mr. Speaker, I really got astonished when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, our president, my president, came to this house and only stated just one out of the relevant primary macro indicators and painted a picture as if the economy of Ghana is in investors. Why are we creating panic in our country when there's none? Mr. Speaker, one thing that everyone should understand is that when it comes to the economy, it is not one having his or her discretion an illustration of a picture. It deals with facts and figures, numbers, numerical description. Mr. Speaker, the number one and the most important primary macro indicator to show whether a country's economy is doing well or not, number one is the GDP. You can't choose to say anything at all. 2016, God being so good, it is the same present president that handed over Ghana to His Excellency former President Nana Danko Akufo-Addo. GDP, as my brother said, just to re-emphasize, was 3.4. Mr. Speaker, we left over 6%, almost twice. Mr. Speaker, three most important secondary macro indicators all over the world in assessing any economy. Number one is the mainstay of your economy. In Ghana here, it's agriculture. They left 2.7. We left 4.5. Then you come to industry. It's very unfortunate that my senior, respectable MP, Honorable Haruna, he made a statement that NPP government destroyed the private sector. I stand to be corrected. Private sector is the key and definitional element of dealing with any industry in the world. They left industrial growth of 4.3. We left 8.9, almost twice. Mr. Speaker, then you come to services. They left 2.8. We left 5%. Mr. Speaker, then you talk about the fiscal space in terms of consolidation to show whether your economy has a future, is strong or not. They left a negative figure. We left a positive figure. Mr. Speaker, take that aside. Could we have said that the economy was so bad and dead and was in ICU, intensive care unit? Mr. Speaker, when one is intensive care unit, you cannot even raise your hand. We are still performing our obligations. This country outlays billions of cedis every month for emolument, paying workers. Were we paying them or not? Where did they get money to pay workers in January? Mr. Speaker, let us be. I don't want to use any vocabulary because I'm dealing with a statement of the president. But let us be very careful the kind of picture we paint to this generation and the world. Mr. Speaker, all the pro-poor policies, both in kind and cash, we left those that were performing efficiently and effectively well, including free SHS, paying billions every month. Mr. Speaker, I want to come back to this whole issue about debt. Yes, we left a little over 70% debt to GDP. That is not too good, yes. But Mr. Speaker, we need to contextualize this and explain it well. I want any professor in the world and in Ghana here swear with Quran and Bible and say what I'm saying is a lie, because we are tired of misinformation. Mr. Speaker, when in the history of this country where Ghanaians, public and civil service workers, were asked to stay home but they were paid, have we forgotten so soon? They went through a period of some months of no working but they were paid, all of them in this country. Mr. Speaker, even after that, they ran shit for over 11 months. 10 will go 2 weeks, another 10 will go 2 weeks, and they were paying them. Mr. Speaker, private sector sacked over 40,000 people in this country, paying corporate taxes. We ran revenue shortfalls of 12 billion in this country. That was when the world grew negative 3.3. That was when the debt to GDP of the world went to almost 300%. We even did well. Had it been the NDC government, debt to GDP would have been 1,400. Because we are better managers of the economy. Mr. Speaker, all that we are talking about is that, Mr. Speaker, I want my brothers to understand. I want my brothers to understand. I want my brothers to understand. If the economy was in coma in ICU, how come such a developing country such as Ghana, you are the social democrats. In economics, you are supposed to adopt what we call contractual fiscal policies to roll out pro-poor policies. NDC government cannot boast of one social and pro-poor policy. The poor child's need, but socialistic. But you cannot roll out one economy. You can't sell them. Mr. Speaker, I want them to understand the fact that when it comes to managing the economy of this country, Ghanaians cannot have any hope under you. Mr. Speaker, no wonder.
Thank you. Please wind up.
Yeah. No wonder that when they were coming to power, they sang a nice song. Asampa is where official NDC members are torturing soldiers in order for their people to do what I'm saying. Asampa is where private properties and homes are being attacked. Our constitution state without ambiguity and debate. Article 18(2)(a) that no one shall be subjected to the interference of his private home and properties. So Asampa is that you are attacking poor people in our country today. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker. I want to end with this. I just want to end with this. I want to tell them today, when you have impaired productivity, when your market is not working, when you have revenue shortfalls, where you rely on is debt financing, and when your GDP is not growing, definitely. So it was an uncontrollable factor.
Thank you.
But before they came to power, they have inherited far better economic.
Thank you, Honorable Stephen.
Handed over in 2016.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. We will take the last. Honorable Millicent Amankwa-Yeboah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the debate of the State of the Nation's address. Mr. Speaker, under the Article 67 of the Constitution, the President shall, at the beginning of each section of Parliament, deliver a message on the State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, clearly, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has honored his constitutional rights and the oath that he swore. This is the first of his oath that he swore. Mr. Speaker, with this Article 67, that is the message, it didn't come out clearly with what the content of the message is. But if you pick the Article 34, Clause 2, the President shall report to Parliament at least once a year all the steps taken to ensure realization of the policies, objectives obtained in this chapter, and in particular, realization of the basic human rights and healthy economy, the right to work, the right to good health care, and the right to education. Mr. Speaker, on that note, let us ask ourselves if indeed the SONA contains this context. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, one of our members of Parliament, our sister, the former Deputy Minister for Finance, depicted that the SONA, that the states, the message that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama came about was actually not in a right state. But I want to tell her that as a woman, I was surprised about some comments that was made. Because when she made mention of the fact that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama gave out heavily expansion fiscal policy without any financial or funds allocated to it. She is a finance minister. I want to ask her that if the State of the Nation address is supposed to come out with outlined financial lines towards it, that is why we would get to know the policies and the visions that align to the state's policy with its budget allocation. Again, she clearly made mention that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is actually concerned about this collapse of banks because he in some way wants to give license. This is very insensitive, because how can you collapse banks? Up to now, some people have not been able to recover. People are on the streets. People are unemployed. Look at people's money that have been invested in it. Look at the money you use in collapsing it. And look at the money which, if you had used to save them, wouldn't have been perfect. Mr. Speaker, now they talk about His Excellency John Dramani Mahama being a terminator. Mr. Speaker, if you want to come to the table of equity, come with clean hands. Come with clean hands. If you are able to, take collapse banks and people who was unemployed, you cannot today say that. But even Mr. Speaker, with determination, it was legally right, as Honorable James Agaga said earlier on. As I continue, yesterday, I am happy that the Honorable Oponkoma is here. Yesterday, I am so surprised. He made mention that he couldn't even hear that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama spoke about job.
Honorable members,
I want to help
honorable
you.
members, please, we lay down the rules.
Mr. Speaker, he made mention clearly that he didn't hear His Excellency John Dramani Mahama talking about job creation initiatives. But you know, sometimes I remember when I wasn't in Parliament. When I was in Parliament and I used to listen to Sona, I sometimes do not get captured about these things. But today, per the Constitution, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama delivered perfectly the constitutional rights. And Mr. Speaker, if he didn't hear, maybe because it took like an hour or half, and so I will help him. Under the job creation, he made mention a Jumaria program, which supports 2,000 youth employment annually with training, capacity, and mentorship. The National Apprenticeship Program target 10,000 youth with skills training and setup kits. Okada or motorcycle transport reformed, introducing the electric motorcycle under the high purchase scheme. 1 million coded program, the youth training in digital skills, coding, web development, digital marketing. These are few that I made mention of. Mr. Speaker, that Swami MP, when he was talking about mining, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, please withdraw that statement.
Mr.
That
Speaker,
word.
I am guided. I withdraw.
Withdraw that word.
Mr. Speaker, I am guided. I am guided. I withdraw. Mr. Speaker, when you was talking about it, I was waiting.
I have asked her to withdraw.
Yes, she has withdrawn. You have withdrawn. She has withdrawn.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members. I have asked her to withdraw that word.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, I was thinking that he would make mention the things that they did during their previous government. But Mr. Speaker, surprisingly, we had excavators seized. Mr. Speaker, instead of you looking at these mining communities. Mr. Speaker, the excavators were seized, and in those communities are the most deprived communities. Those excavators and machines should go and reshaping the roads. And these excavators were seized and come somewhere.
Wind up for me.
Mr. Speaker, please permit me to continue on this because it's very important to me. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, wind up for me. Your time is up, please. I am being guarded by the table. They give me the time.
Mr. Speaker, with this constitutional mandate on the health sector.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Let me wrap up.
Honorable Millicent, thank you.
Mr. Speaker, let me wrap up. Please, 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Mr. Speaker, 1 minute. Mr. Speaker, on the health sector, His Excellency
Honorable member, please, enough is enough.
Agenda 111.
Honorable member, enough is enough.
It shows clearly that they didn't work. Mr. Speaker, inclusive.
Have you seen the way the minority leader is looking at you? Yes, let's hear you. Who's having his microphone on?
Consult the oracles.
Yes. Speaker,
We jumped there.
in fact, let me give a background to what I'm going to speak to. Yesterday, we were supposed to do a motion, advertised in today's order paper as item 16 on page 6. It had to be stood down. And today, we reached a consensus that that motion will be moved. So earlier on, our colleagues have also, specifically the first deputy has appealed to us that we should take the report on the appointment committee, which our side has agreed to do. However, Speaker, we want to begin with item 16 on page 6, after which we'll proceed to take the appointment committee's report. Already, the report has been laid. So, Speaker, shall we proceed from item 16 on page 6? I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
we had agreed that we'll take one from each side, and then we will take the reports. And I think that is why the first Deputy Speaker took his seat so that he could take the report. I don't know why the minority chief whip is seeking to vary the order of business again. I thought that we were just going to take at least one of the reports on the ministerial appointments. I thought that was what we agreed to do.
We will just finish with the motion quickly, and then we'll take it. There's no problem. We'll take it. Please.
The problem with motions is that they can get very contentious, heated debates. I thought that the best would have been to, because there's consensus on the nominees, at least the ones that we want to take.
Leader, we'll come on Friday.
No, we'll take it today, except they wanted to take the okay.
The leader should oblige us. We'll just start from the motion and we terminate. We start from the motion and end.
I'm coming. Hold on.
Coming.
So leadership, is that the pressure of the House?
I think the first Deputy Speaker has some indications from the Speaker, and he made mention of that when we met this morning. So if the first Deputy Speaker takes the chair, he will give an indication what we should do.
Okay, first Deputy, come and take the chair.
Yes. Speaker, may we move to page 6? Page 6 of today's order paper and take item 16. Item 16 on page 6, Speaker.
Honourable members, there was an application earlier made to take the appointment committee's reports, and thereafter we'll take the motion. In view of that understanding, I ask that the second deputy speaker should take the chair so that I could myself move the motion, then I can come and take the chair, and then we take the private member's motion. But I do not know what have changed. But I will be guided by the pleasure of the House.
Speaker, with greatest, an order paper addendum yesterday, it had to be stood down, which we obliged. We've discussed, Speaker, application was made to us. We agreed that the item should be laid, the report should be laid. Speaker, we have obliged our colleagues in the majority. Please, for once, let's work together. Let's take this motion, after which we can do the report. The report is here. There's consensus. There's no problem. Is it the case that colleagues are entertaining some fear? We are going to support you to pass this. So
you see, was even laying a report. You raise an issue that he is not the chairman of the appointment committee. I think Honorable Habib was the one who raised the issue. It is based on the issue raised by Honorable Habib that I have decided to give the chair to the second deputy speaker, so that as the chairman of the appointment committee, I could move the motions before coming to take the chair, and then we'll deal with the private members' motion. So I want to be guided.
Yeah, as far as I know, the two respected leaders' minds have met. There's an agreement. The two leaders have agreed. So shall we proceed from there, Speaker? Please. There's an agreement.
Is that the agreement by the two leaders?
Mr. Speaker, from the very moment when my colleague, the minority leader, indicated his desire to bring a private member's motion, I have not hidden my opposition to it. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we will be in your hands.
Yes, honourable members, item number 16 at page 6 of today's order paper.
Private, I had indicated and intimated to the minority leader that I am opposed to the motion advertised. Because the motion, Mr. Speaker, is to the effect that this House, this Honorable House, considers the directive by the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Debra, in a letter dated 10 February 2025, with reference...
Honorable Majority Leader, you should have... Very well.
It is already the property of the House because it has been advertised.
Yes.
It has been advertised. Listen, it has been advertised. It has been advertised, and I want to object to it being moved in the first place. Not to oppose the motion after it has been moved. To object to it being moved. The objection is to it being moved.
Very
and
well.
That was the understanding between us.
Very well. If
that I should arrest it,
yes,
and then the Speaker will rule.
Very well.
And then the next step will take place.
Very well.
That was the understanding in private. Well. Yes. So I said that I was going to attempt to arrest it.
Yes. So,
and then
Majority Leader, let me hear the Minority Leader briefly. Then I'll come back to you so that you can raise your objection.
Mr. Speaker, I always say that I want the jurisprudence of the House to guide me. And if in this night Parliament we are setting certain precedents, speakers have ruled on this very important matter, that a preliminary objection to a motion can only be triggered after the motion has been moved and seconded. However, Mr. Speaker, if the new practice in this ninth Parliament is that a preliminary objection, a preliminary legal objection, or any form of objection to a motion must be raised before the motion is moved, it's fine. Because I remember in the 7th Parliament, in the matter of Kennedy Japan, when it came to the contempt matter, I stood on the majority side in the 7th Parliament at the back bench and raised a preliminary objection to arrest the motion. The ruling of Professor Okwe was that no, the motion must first be moved, seconded, and then the motion will be properly be before the House. in the matter of Kenoforiata, Honorable Ayarega, wait. In the matter of Kenoforiata, then as the again, Mr. Speaker, relying on precedents, said that no, the motion would have to be moved, seconded. It is only upon that would be seized with the matter. Then my preliminary objection on the matter could be raised. And if it is upheld, then there will be no debate on it. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Ayarega himself, then in the minority, was part of those who argue strongly on this matter. However, to raise this preliminary objection for you to rule upon it, and if whichever way it goes, we'll know what to do. If the new practice is that a preliminary objection must be raised, the whole thing is arrested. Don't let us also forget, Mr. Speaker, in the Doe Ajaho case, Honorable Dominic Nitihu, in the Merchant Bank's case, again, when he moved a motion, there was a preliminary objection to it. Right Honorable Ajaho allowed the motion to be moved, seconded. Then after that, the preliminary objection was raised from the majority side, and he ruled on it and sustained the objection. Mr. Speaker, there are 3 precedents from 3 different speakers on this matter. You are in the chair now as the presiding officer. If you want to vary the precedents, this would be the new precedents, and I'll be guided. I don't have a problem. Thank you, sir.
Honourable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the terms of the motion are captured. So when a motion is advertised and you think that that motion pressed it before it is moved, the reason is that in moving the motion, the mover will already make comments or even argue in support of the motion. So whatever you are seeking to arrest, you unearthing the issues that you think offend the provisions of the standing orders. So the proper thing to do is that once the content of the motion is known and the motion has been advertised and everybody can read it, if you think it should not be moved, it is before it is moved. When you give indications that the motion is about to be moved, that's when you arrest it. You seek to stop it from being moved so that it is not moved. If you rule that the objection is not well founded, then he can go ahead and move the motion, argue, and then we'll all debate the provisions of the motion. I think that's the proper practice.
Well, honourable members, I think we are talking about 2 separate things here. In the Merchant Bank case, I think the objection was to the effect that such a motion should not be debated. Therefore, the motion was moved, and when it's time for it to be debated, then the preliminary objection was taken. That has got to do with truncating the debate of the motion. But in this case, he is of the view that the motion ought not to have been moved at all. So that is the distinction that I am getting. Yes, Honorable Okonkwo.
Mr. Speaker, just to help the conversation, akin to what will be happening in the courts, if this proposal is accepted, it will mean that when a writ is issued, even before the motion is actually moved by a lawyer in court, another lawyer can go without the matter having been moved to seek to arrest it. That would not be proper. It is important that though it has been advertised on the order paper, it be moved and seconded, and then whatever objection there is raised, and then it can be dealt with by the Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Kojo Okonkrumah, as a matter of fact, if it were to be in courtroom, and you don't want the motion to be heard, you raise a preliminary objection, you will be given the opportunity to respond to the motion. In that case, your response cannot be a preliminary objection to the application. That is why I'm saying that I have the distinction that one is to the effect that a debate on the motion should be truncated. The other one is to the effect that the motion ought not to have been moved at all. And I think that is what Honorable Majority Leader Mahama Yariga is saying. So may we hear your preliminary objection.
Mr. Speaker, the motion is to the effect that this House considers the directive by the Chief of Staff, Honorable Julius Debra, in a letter dated 10 February 2025 with reference SCR/DA 85/85/01/A, and refers the matter to a committee of Parliament to inquire and report to the House, as the directive is inconsistent with good governance practices and has consequences on the rights of citizens as provided for under Chapter 5 and 6 of the 1992 Constitution. So, Speaker, these are the terms of the motion that he seeks to move. My objection to this motion being moved is to the effect that, one, the matters contained in the motion are matters that are sub judice because there is an application before the Attorney General, and he is seeking some remedies in relation to this same matter. So the matter is in court. And the citation of the case is Henry Nana Boachi versus Attorney General and Minister for Justice, J1/12/2025. And he is seeking some reliefs, a declaration to the effect that the directive is unconstitutional, some orders to the effect that, the directive should not be enforced, and even some compensation that he is claiming should be given. So those are the issues that are the subject of litigation in the Supreme Court. Now, once this matter is in the Supreme Court, he is saying that this House should also refer the matter to the Human Rights Committee of the House for a determination that the letter has the consequence of violating the rights of citizens. So my position is that, look, the matter is already in the Supreme Court. Why would you raise the matter in this House and also seek that this House refers it to a committee, and the committee will be engaged in a parallel exercise of determining whether or not the consequence of the letter is to violate the rights of citizens? The matter is already before the Supreme Court. And I also argued that what you are seeking to do, in effect, is to ask this House to engage in a judicial function, a determination that the letter violates the rights of citizens. So that's a judicial function you are asking this House to engage in. The nature of the work of committees is to ascertain facts, the rights of citizens. So that's a judicial function you are asking this House to engage in, not to make a determination of a violation of rights or not. The determination of the violation of rights is a function of the judiciary. So my objection to this motion is